50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity.
Hi, I'm Glenda Guster, and I'm the current president of Progressive Action for the Common Good, also known as PACG. And we're here today doing this video to inspire and educate our community about the importance of voting, our voting rights, and the importance of getting involved in your community. And we challenge you, get out, vote, don't leave that line. If no matter what, stay in line and vote. Some of the things on here that is important to me is like this sign here that said whites only. That stirred something in me every time I think about it, that I'm less human because I can't use a water fountain that whites use. Also this right here, I am a man. My forefathers and my grandfathers, they was treated like boys. And they was grown men, working men. They paid taxes, they worked. Our family history leave a legacy. We was hard workers. Also another thing that brings tears to my heart is when I think about the Lorraine Motel that Martin Luther King, he came there to do this speech and he ended up getting assassinated for something that this country should have been doing years ago, treating everybody with equality.
The great opportunity of having dinner with Dr. Martin Luther King when he came to the Amana colonies, and I was a freshman student at Grinnell College, which is just down the road. I was a little intimidated because I was just a freshman and the other 5 students that were there were all upperclassmen, so I didn't know any of them. But I did know this, and that was that the man that was speaking to me was destined for greatness. There was no question in my mind about that. He was a handsome man. He looked straight at you and he just sort of bore into your soul. There was a fierceness in what he said that hung in the air. It was the personal element, and he made that clear that we're not alone in this world, and everything we do impacts every other person that we encounter. There's hope in the world, and that we have to, in those small ways, contribute to making that dream real, making that hope real.
When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt.
The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom was one of the most astonishing things that I'd ever been involved in. It taught me a lot of things, showed me a lot of things, and proved a lot of things for me. And the other thing was in 2009, at the first inauguration of President Obama. Those 2 events were 2 events that really stood out to me in terms of what I went through and participated in. I guess a third one would be the fact that I was, well, the first in my family to graduate from college, and actually I paid my way through college mainly. And so to see my mother's face when I got my bachelor's degree from Howard University was another one of the events that really stood out for me. It changed me because I began to see people in a different light. I saw people not in terms of race anymore. I saw people not in terms of a different type of religion anymore. Because, for example, at the march in Washington, when you had 1 million people, and I was standing at the tree right in front of the Lincoln Memorial, and I couldn't move because there were people in front of me, behind me, beside me, and I was pressed up against that tree. But it was a glad time, and there was no animosity. Everybody had the same goal. Nobody had any secret or had their own type of agenda. There was only one agenda, and that was the agenda to get freedom and to get jobs. And those kind of things stood out in my mind and cemented something in my mind and in my heart to continue to do what I was doing.
In 1963, I was a St. Ambrose student, like a junior, senior at the time, and Father Marv Mottet organized a group to go to Washington to march with Martin Luther King on Washington, D.C. on August 28th, 1963. So five of us from Davenport went. We drove all night, 17 hours out to Washington, D.C., and I remember coming over the sort of end of the D.C. area where the mall is, where they had the big march. And I can vividly, very clearly remember the mall was surrounded by buses, big Greyhound buses. And I always thought, are the buses, it was like keeping in it. Was the purpose of the buses to keep people out, which was what was to keep, bad guys out, or to keep us in, as like jailing us? I wasn't sure what the purpose was. But anyway, I can remember that very vividly. Martin Luther King led the march, along with a lot of Walter Reuther, who was head of the UAW, because again, labor and civil rights and the Democratic Party were all kind of intermeshed together back then. It was an amazing day. I mean, I knew it was a historic day when I was there, and we sang a lot of the old civil rights songs, and there was just all kinds of top, like Peter, Paul, and Mary, I've Got a Hammer, and just all the beautiful civil rights songs. We need to do that more today because they were inspiring for young people. And then, of course, Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. Being involved in civil rights is a lifetime commitment, just like being active in government and politics has to be a lifetime. It's not a short period of time. There's always going to be racism or sexism or anti-gay feelings or anti-women feelings. In fact, we created Martin Luther King Center here in Davenport. It's been unheard of 50, 60 years ago, but it's changed. And to see that by your involvement, you do make a difference. You got to be an optimist. You got to keep trying. So I guess it reinforced my beliefs that the system can work if you really work at it. Don't give up on it.
I was the first one on the county board. I was the first one to be in 2-1 as a precinct committeeman. I stayed there for 51 years, and when I retired, I have a big plaque at home from the Democrat. I'm a Democrat. I tell you up front, I can't help it. I'm naturally a Democrat. I was made to be Democrat. I was only 16. My dad and family moved here because Reverend A.B. Collins brought us here, which was my mother's sister. They moved out of the parsonage of Second Baptist Church and bought a house on 8th Street and 10th Avenue. We moved in the parsonage, paid rent. Spent my life working at with Farm Hall. 41 years when they closed. I was also an elected official of Rock Island County for 30 years.
When you can be humble enough to see the struggles that the people around you face on a day-to-day basis, it really puts you in a calming position to where how privileged you are to live the life that you live. personal rewards, I feel like I can call myself somebody that's empathetic. Can walk in another man or woman's shoes, can see that your neighborhood is several different neighborhoods in one. Everybody has a story, everybody has a path, and everybody has goals, dreams, and aspirations, and you should honor everybody's. I'm a black man in America. Every day I go out, I take the position of a civil rights activist. I'm just fighting for myself. My mother is a constant inspiration. She just lets me know that I have the ability to fight for what I believe in, fight for what I can stand for, and I just want to let her know that I'm doing exactly what she lets me know. It takes a village to raise anybody and everybody, and I shouldn't be the only one here at all. There are plenty of young activists and young Malcolms and young Martins placed in the roots of Davenport, Iowa, and I feel like the Latin word for education is to adduce, to pull out. When you can pull out that beauty, you'll have a strong community, and that's what I believe in. Those are my brothers, and I feel like them, you can go outside, you can face all different types of racism, classism, injustice, like all of that is still present. So when I look at those as my big brothers, my mentors, some of the people that just came into this room, those are those people, right? If, rest in peace, if Martin Luther King was still alive, that's where he would be right there, taking interviews, and those are the people. So I feel like we should put flowers on people before their tombstones, and I feel like they're still here, we should still cherish them, and they're definitely relevant to this day.
But one day, this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.